Today we're going to talk about pruning everbearing raspberries. Now they call them everbearing. That doesn't mean they produce all the time, but pretty close. They'll produce twice on each cane. And so in the springtime, well, depends on when you prune them, but you just need to remember that they'll produce twice on each cane. So right now, these canes, it's fall time right now. These canes came up in the springtime, and they grew up, and then they're producing right now in the fall time. And then I'll leave these until the spring. They'll produce one more time, and then they'll die. The canes will turn brown, and they'll die, and then I clip them out and take them out. But in the springtime, as these are producing for the last time, you'll have a new growth of canes coming up from the ground, and those will produce next fall and then the following spring again. So just remember that each one will produce twice, each cane will produce twice, and after that they will die. The heritage ones over there, they don't berry so well in the spring for me here, and so even though they're ever-bearing, I treat them as a June-bearing or a one-time bearing raspberry. So after they berry, which they're bearing right now, I will, in the winter or in the early spring, I will cut them down to the ground, and then new growth will come up in the spring, and those will bear in the fall. The Queen Anne variety, which I really like, produce big berries, and a lot of them. This 18-foot row in its peak of the season in the springtime, I'll get about a gallon a day for about a week. Raspberries don't need a whole lot of maintenance as far as fertilization and worrying about water. As far as fertilization, I just put a layer of manure at the beginning of each season in the springtime at the base of the plants, and that seems to fight off any disease, and it gives them plenty of food to grow. Your cane should get about 6 to 7 feet tall, and as far as watering, I use a small 1/4-inch drip line with emitters that are set every 6 inches, and I water in the middle of the year, in the middle of the summer, when it's extra hot here in Utah. I water about every 3rd day for about an hour, and I mulch heavily with pine needles. That lowers the pH system a bit to ward off iron chlorosis, and I have leaves, and then I have a bunch of wood chips in the trail, in the pathway that conserve the moisture. A lot of shoots coming out in your where you walk your paths, or in your other flower beds or your garden beds. You need to clip those off again, so you want the energy to go to the big canes that are going to produce berries. And so sometimes I have my neighbors come over and they dig up the ones that I don't want, and they go plant them. Here's one I just dug up this morning. I just dug it up from the path, and it still has roots on it. This can be planted over in somewhere else, and it will produce. That's a bare root plant, so that will produce berries next year. The only pest that I get is a cane borer. What it is, it'll take a cane and it'll drill a hole right at the top and drill right down the center of this cane, and you'll see the leaves starting to curl. You'll see wood shavings. It looks like wood shaving sawdust come out. What I do is I just snip, snip, snip until I see the end of their burrow that they made, and then I throw that away. And if it's early enough in the season, the raspberry cane will have more branches that come out that will produce berries. But on my worst season, I probably get 5% of my canes get cane borer. This year I haven't gotten any. Other than that, I get a few earwigs, which are nasty, but they suck a few little cells dry on my raspberries, but they don't really do anything to my raspberries, just creep me and my kids out. Support, these are set about 18 inches from the ground, and then another support at 3 feet. I could probably use another support about 5 feet up, but these tend to be all right, hold up well. And they're just a T and galvanized wire set on each side, and those hold up pretty well.